My Bare Hands, written by Patricio, narrated by John Rolls. It was sometime between 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. The sky was as black as midnight. The smoke from all the nearby fires blocked the sun and made breathing difficult. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a crumpled soft pack of Marlboro Reds. The pack was partially soaked with the sweat from the night before, and some of the cigarettes had broken in half. I thought to myself, hard packs don't have these issues. They usually keep the cigarettes dry and protects them from breaking. Unfortunately, soft packs were the only option at the DSA commissary. I considered myself lucky because a few cigarettes in the middle of the pack survived. I pulled one out and brought it to my mouth. The taste of the filter and the anticipation of pulling my first drag brought comfort after a sleepless and stressful night. That day, I was sitting on a hard, uneven, rocky and sandy surface with my back resting against an Amtrak, which was our method of transportation for the past couple of days. In front of me was the only source of light in the area, an oil well set on fire by the Iraqi forces directed by Saddam Hussein. The oil well was approximately 100 meters away, and the terrain placed it in an indefilade position. I numbly stared past the fire as I listened to the roar of the gigantic flames. Even at 100 meters, the roar was loud, and the heat was just slightly unbearable. I could not tell the difference between taking a drag of my cigarette and breathing the air around me, and wondered for a moment, should I be concerned? Most of the Marines in the platoon were asleep except for the lucky few placed on fire watch. Fire watch is a standard Marine Corps term for guard duty. I thought about the word fire watch as I stared at the fire and grimaced. My mind started to wonder, will I survive this? If I do, what will I be doing in 10, 20, 30 years? What do I want to accomplish before I die? It was February 25th, 1991, the second day of the Kuwait Liberation Ground Offensive, which started on February 24th at 4 a.m. During the initial assault, we traversed north from Saudi Arabia through the southern border of Kuwait, which resembled and was rightly named the Elbow. That morning, we exploited breaches through 2 minefields and obstacle belts. We utilized Amtraks, the Marine Corps' proven amphibious assault vehicle, also known as tracks. The track drivers conducted hip-shoot maneuvers developed for Humvees during desert warfare training at 29 Palms a few years back. Prior to the ground offensive, we practiced these maneuvers along with track dismount procedures and weapon placement setup until it was second nature for all members of the platoon. These maneuvers proved to be essential for the successful deployment of Marines and crew-served weapons. Our platoon successfully engaged in critical fire missions, which proved to be vital for the battalion's overall offensive mission. At first, it was just like training. Reality hit when the targets started shooting back. Our platoon leader was a young lieutenant who graduated from Virginia Military Institute, VMI. He sported a high and tight haircut along with an eagle globe and anchor tattoo. Without his uniform, he could have been easily mistaken as a muscle-hit boot, a nickname given to brand-new Marines fresh out of boot camp. He was not the typical lieutenant depicted in most movies who were young, frail, and naive. He was a confident, strong, and fair leader filled to the rim with the Marine Corps' warrior ethos. Everyone in the platoon respected him. In garrison, he was conscious about his health and always seen working out to keep his lean and mean physique. In fact, just prior to the start of the ground offensive, I witnessed him working out with a few sandbags and a tent pole in the desert. He liked to drink beer, but I never saw him with a cigarette in his hand until that day. I was halfway through my cigarette when the lieutenant asked to sit next to me. I said, "Coppa squat, sir," and thought to myself, why is he not asleep? I haven't seen him asleep for the past 5 days. He was either in a meeting getting orders from command, briefing the platoon sergeant and squad leaders, or walking around and checking on the status of the Marines within the platoon. One time I woke up in the middle of a deep sleep to witness him having a deep conversation with the fire watch. It was a long conversation, and the drone of their voices put me back to sleep. The lieutenant asked, "Corporal P, may I have a smoke?" My nickname was P because it was easier to say P than my entire last name, which is Patricio. Surprised, I pulled out my pack and moved my hand in a manner that forced a single cigarette to stick out of the pack and placed it within reaching distance while saying, "This is unusual, sir." He took a cigarette and replied, "After last night, nothing is unusual anymore." I pulled out my lighter and ignited a flame while he brought the cigarette to his mouth. I witnessed him holding back an ever so slight cough as he took his first drag. He stared at the burning oil well for a few moments and asked me what I was thinking. I said, I was thinking about what I'd be doing in the future and what I wanted to do before I die. He stared intensely past the fire, nodded his head, and whispered, "Yep." I could tell he was in deep thought, and I wondered what he was thinking. I turned toward the fire and took another drag. In that moment, my anxiety calmed down, and I felt rested and content. The lieutenant appeared to be in the same mindset, and I thought to myself, if he was calm, then it was okay for me to be calm. To this day, I wonder if he did that on purpose. After a long silence, I asked, "Have you thought about what you wanted to do before you die, sir?" He thought about it for a few seconds and replied with a confident, "Yes," followed up with, "Today's weapons are so advanced, you can kill the enemy before seeing them up close and personal. Naval gunfire can launch a barrage of rounds from miles away. Our own 81mm mortars can launch HE rounds from 5 clicks. Heck, our M16s can take out a threat from 500 to 800 yards away." He stared at the oil well fire again for a few moments. I wish to be up close and personal when taking out a threat. He put both hands in front of him and turned the palms towards his face. One hand was holding the cigarette between his pointer and index finger. While staring at his hands, he said, "One day I would like to end the life of my enemy with just my bare hands." Shocked, I quietly scooted my seat a half-inch away, took a puff from my cigarette and said, "I'm glad I'm not your enemy, sir," while holding a grimace. The Kuwait liberation offensive ended 2 days later, and after it was all said and done, the lieutenant had proven himself time and time again to be a strong and competent Marine Corps officer. I thought to myself, this lieutenant is going to go far in the Marine Corps. 25 years later, in 2016, I met him at the Iwo Jima Marines Memorial in Washington, D.C. He was still serving in the Marines and obtained the rank of Brigadier, 1-star, General. He looked a bit older, but just about the same except for the 1-star on his collar and a salad bar of ribbons on his chest. After our brief reunion, a school teacher asked if he could speak to her students and talk about the Marine Corps. Without hesitation, he said, "Of course." When one makes general, one doesn't travel alone. He was escorted by a group of Marine Corps, Army, and Air Force colonels and majors. While he was speaking with the students, I mentioned the "my bare hands" story to the group of colonels. Most of them were shocked and responded accordingly. One colonel touched my shoulder, looked me in the eyes without blinking, and calmly said, "He's still the same way." Semper Fi. Respectfully signed, John Patricio, Sergeant, USMC, retired. Weapons Company 11, 81's Platoon, Raiders of the Night.